think we're live. Hello everybody. I'm going to trust that we're live. Well, welcome to this online session. This is all going to be about music theory basics. I've got some slides set up for you that will show you some musical examples, guitar fretboard diagrams, regular music scales, and various information on intervals and all the information that you'll need to know when it comes to a certain topic involving the absolute basics, and this is concerning scales and chords and lots of important information. So keep watching, you'll get the idea as we go along. So yes, this is music basics. So I'm going to switch the view actually to another one like that. And these sessions are all about music, obviously, enrichment of the soul, and hopefully leading to bliss and not frustration. So music theory basics. This is a series and a journey of discovery looking at the inherent connections between chords, scales, modes, and changing key mid-song. That is to say that this is going to be a series of videos, and I'm going to explain the importance of chords and how they relate to scales. And as part of that discussion, I've already covered the modes, but in this series, this will be making much more sense of how modes operate, how scales operate, and how chords operate. Now, when it comes to changing key mid-song, and I call that modulation is the correct term for it. If, for instance, you're a songwriter, and I had a songwriter say to me within 5 days, I think 5 days ago, it was on the weekend, and the songwriter said to me, I don't know what keys I'm supposed to go to. I'm just sort of guessing. How do other composers do it? How do people like Paul Simon or Paul McCartney or anybody? How do they choose the key? So this series of videos will help show you some ideas as to how keys can connect across. So you use a particular chord and it's actually in another key. So this series will help you decide which other chords you can use and which other keys you can visit, even in a simple pop song. So you don't necessarily have to be a complicated music composer to do that. Who is this course aimed at? Well, I say beginners because obviously scales, chords are the things that most beginners will want to cover. Maybe not all beginners understand the relevance of it, but at some point they become essential, because you can't sing a song without singing a scale. It may not be in the scale order, but you are singing in a scale and in a particular key. So this notion that beginners should know some scales and know some chords, well, what else are you going to do? Even if you're going to play classical guitar, Spanish guitar, going to play folk guitar, rock and roll, it doesn't matter what it is, you're going to play chords and scales. And it's also aimed at students. So I've kind of aimed this that hopefully will make sense to GCSE students, and by that I mean age 13 to 15. So in the UK we call them GCSE students. They do that for 2 years before they leave school at 16. A-level students, so those are people who are going to sixth form college, maybe studying A-level music. And again, this is ages 16 to 18, so it's pre-degree standard. And I also think this is applicable to enthusiastic amateurs, those people who just play and may not necessarily know all of the names of all the notes or all of the names of all the chords, or when they watch another guitarist playing and they play a weird chord, maybe they don't know the name of that chord. So it's aimed at what I call enthusiastic amateurs. And I also have aimed this at experienced ear musicians, and by that I mean those people who can play very well, but again they have limited theory knowledge to be able to you know, maybe apply these ideas of modulation or changes of key. And I also think inherently this will help composers, because obviously the bedrock of ideas comes from how, you know, you mustn't be limited. You know, there's no point being limited. You want to be as wide as possible in your options. You don't want to have boundaries. So this will hopefully help with that. I'm going to change angle of the camera so I can read the bottom bit. And the relevance, this is to understand how chords are constructed. So chords are constructed from scales. And this will help you recognize, analyze, and name those chords. In other words, you have a method of being able to see what the chord is, maybe what the root of the chord is. It may not even be in the root position. So the notes that are involved in a chord, it will help you to identify those, because what essentially you're doing when you're identifying a chord, you can identify the possible scales that that chord might belong to using these methods. So knowing how chords relate to keys will help you choose any chord and understand chord relationships. So, you know, that basically, if you know a scale, and I've explained in the mode series that when you have a scale, you can have a series of chords that come from that scale, and only those chords belong to that scale. So this is very useful for, you know, particularly I think songwriters who are stuck in a rut. That idea, you know, imagine you're writing a song and you're thinking, oh, I want to go off in a new direction. What direction do I go in? And if you just fiddle about and you're just trying to, you know, find other chords just by trial and error, it's valid in a way, but this method means, oh, I'm in the key of C, maybe I want to choose a chord in the key of F, so I could go via one of those chords in the key of F that shared with C major and F major. Knowledge is everything in this. So building chords from the diatonic major scale, well, if you followed the mode series, I'm going to change camera again. If you followed the mode series, then you'll see that I often show you how you build chords from the major scale, but in this instance I will show it again. And then you need to know the scale characteristics. In other words, you have a root note number 1, then the next note is the major second. This is in a major scale, and there's a reason why all of these have these names: major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth. They're the distances between the notes. So from the root note number 1, the next note is a major second apart from the root, the next note is a major third apart from the root, and the next one is a perfect fourth. So we're looking at the scale characteristics as it always relates to the root note. So you get perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh. And then you get to observing the intervals, and that is observing the intervals between pitches. So you're not just looking at the way that the notes relate to the root, you're then looking at the way the notes relate to the other in the scale. So you might have a series of notes in this scale. Note 1 will relate to note 2 by a series of distances that are measurable distances, and we know this is a major second. But the next distance between the second note and the third note is equally measurable. And we usually do that by a name that you've probably heard of: tones and semitones. On the guitar, 1 fret or 2 frets. A semitone is 1 fret apart. A tone is two frets apart. And intervals are governed by chromatic pitch distance. So you need to know your chromatic scale, and that is why I've written C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E. So you need to make sure that you do know, for instance, if you're a guitarist, all of the notes on the fretboard. If you're a pianist, you need to know all the names of the white notes and all the names of the black notes. Okay, so we're on to our scale construction. And this is the thing that's I've explained before in the mode series of videos, but explanations, you know, always worthwhile going over. So what I've written in the diagram, a series of dots. If your music reading is weak, then they're just a series of dots that represent where the notes are. So the first dot is a C, where I've written 1 is the C major, C Ionian scale. So the 1 is the root note, and that's C. In the C major scale, all we're doing is we're playing the letters of the alphabet from C to C using the letters of the alphabet that we're allowed in music. C, note 2 is a major second up, which is D. The next note is E. The next note is F, that's note 4. Note 5 is G. Note 6 is A. Note 7 is B. And then in the diagram where you get the next dot, you're back to the root note again. Some people call it 8, some people call it 1. It's really better to call it 1. The reason we call some of them 8 is because we're thinking there are extensions over it. So if you've heard of a 9th chord or an 11th chord or a 13th chord, you can have other notes built above that. But we won't worry about that now. So that's our scale. Root note is a major second to the next note. So this interval between this note and this note, the C and D, that sound is a major second. We've got a major third, it's 1 and 3, 1 and 4, 1 and 5, 1 and 6, 1 and 7. So some pitches are more dissonant than others. This sounds dissonant. This sounds consonant. This sounds consonant. And the perfect fourth sounds consonant. It just sounds a bit weakened, slightly bland. Perfect fifth is slightly bland. Major sixth, it's quite colourful. Major seventh, because it's so close to the octave, 2 C's and the C and the B, it's like doing this, C and the B. So we're dealing in degrees of dissonance and consonance. And it's a good idea to get to know these intervals so you can practice that and just play your root note and then play all the other notes in the scale. So I'm playing A string, fret 3 for C, D string open for the D, and then same string, D string, second fret is E, third fret is F, got open G string, fret 2 on the G string is A, open B string, fret 1 on the B string is a C. So it's a good idea to really get to know those names if you don't already know those. Okay, so down to the second line, second diagram. I'm going to switch camera again. So we're in the middle line now. And we've got a C major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, going to note 8. And then here we can see that there are tones and semitones. So from note 1 to note 2, that's a tone. So note 2 to note 3, that's a tone. Note 3 to note 4 is a semitone. Now you notice that you've got fret 2 and fret 3. But when you want to get to D, to E, there's a note in between them. So they're a tone apart. So that's regarded as a tone anyway. Now to get to G, you have to go via F and then F sharp. So it's a tone apart. And then F to G is tone, so that means G to A, because there's a G sharp in between, that's a tone. A to B, 6 to 7 is a tone, and 7 to 8 are right next to each other. So the easiest ones to spot are the 7 to 8 in the major scale and 3 to 4. But the rest are slightly further apart. And then so they're all a particular distance apart. And then when it comes to chord construction, what I'm now doing is we look at the bottom line, you can see there are two notes going along. So what we've got notes 1 and 3 from the major scale. So that's a C and an E. C, E. So if we play them together, 1 plus 3, we get something that starts to sound a bit like what we would think of as a chord. It starts to become identifiable. So it sounds like C major because we've got a C and an E. So both are two of the notes that are possible in a C major chord. Notes 2 and 4, D and F. I'm going to show tab diagrams in a minute anyways to explain this further. So that's D minor. Those are the notes of a D minor chord. Next, notes 3 and 5, which forms part of an E minor chord. Notes 4 and 6 forms part of an F major chord, and you may even recognise some of these shapes. 5 and 7 from that scale gives us a G and a B. That's part of a G chord. So even if you imagine if you're playing a G chord, those two notes are part of that chord. We've got an A and a C, notes 6 and 1. You notice the numbers start to overlap when you get above the octave because you can keep going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you imagine going all the way from the bottom notes of a piano all the way to the top. That's what you get. So that forms an A minor. And you can probably recognise it if you were used to playing an A minor chord. You can see those two notes are possible in A minor. Then we've got note 7, note 2. So we've got a B and a D, which is part of a B minor chord. In this instance, it's a B minor flat 5. I've explained this in the modal series for the Ionian scale and a lot of the other modal scales, but basically the rules of the scale only allow, instead of having a proper fifth and you think, oh right, why isn't this B minor? It can't be B minor because the extra note would be an F sharp, and that doesn't belong in our C major scale. We're only allowed the notes of the alphabet without sharps, so C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So that's a tiny bit on chord construction, and I'm going to go to the next diagram where the possibilities are starting to open up. So we now have 1, 3 and 5 from the scale. This is all from that C major scale. 1, 3 and 5 gives us C, E and G. Sounds much more like a chord now. So that's our C major chord. Now notes 2, 4 and 6 from this scale gives us D, F, A. And that forms a D minor chord. If you're wondering why these shapes don't look like a regular, say a regular D minor might be that. Why doesn't this look like that? Well, I'm playing the pure chords as they're written. A D minor just has to have a D in there, and an F, and an A, and they can be anywhere. So it happens to be, there's an F, there's a D, there's an A. And if I put a D as my root note, open D, I've got all the notes of a D minor chord. So chords can replicate these basic notes. So in this instance, we've got 3 notes, 2, 4 and 6 from that scale. When we go notes 3, 5 and 7, we've got an E minor chord. Notes 4, 6 and 1, F, A, C. So that's our chord 4. Chord 5, G, B, D, notes 5, 7 and 2. And then chord 6, 6, 1 and 3, A, C and E. It's A minor chord. And then we get to our 7, 3 and 4. 7, 2 and 4, sorry. 7, 2 and 4, which is a B minor with a flat 5. Again, that's why it can't have that F sharp. It has to be a note from the scale, and that F is part of our C major scale. So we're using, the point of this is to see that scales are the basis of chords. Some people don't know this. It's interesting that people play chords all their life and they don't realise that they're actually constructed in this way. So in other words, you're aligning a scale and then you're putting notes on top of it, and then you'll continue to put notes on top of it, and you can keep going. And that's what the bottom line is showing. Switch camera. Okay, so we've got, in the bottom line, we've got 1, 3, 5 and 7 from our scale. That gives us a C major 7 chord. C, E, G, B. The shapes are going to start looking a bit weird as they're stacked up in the order that they're written in. The next chord, chord 2, D, F, A, C. That should just say D minor 7. It actually says D minor 7 flat 5 in the diagram. Ignore that. D minor 7, terribly sorry. So D, F, A, C. And that gives us our D minor 7 chord. Next, chord 3, E, G, B, D. That gives us E minor 7. F, A, C, E is chord 4. And that gives us F major 7, notes 4, 6, 1 and 3. So we're just taking each note, each other note of that scale, and we just continue saying 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, which would be 8, but it's a 1. And so it keeps going. 3, 5, 7 would be 9, but it's a 2. G, B, D, F, G7. Weird looking G7, but it is a G7. Rearrange, if you rearrange the notes, it might look like that or that, but you're using those principles that I was talking about earlier, which is you're just revoicing what is the basic notes, and I'm playing them the way they're constructed in the scales. A minor 7, A, C, E, G, weird looking shape, 6, 1, 3, 5. 7, and we get to another weird one now. B, D, F, A, B minor 7 flat 5. There's our root note, there's our minor 3rd. The 5th, perfect 5th would be there, normally F sharp, but it's an F natural. And then we've got our 7th, because it's the 7th note, which would lead normally to B. B minor 7 flat 5. So you're just stacking scales up, and that's where chords come from. And if you know the scale, if you were looking at any of these chords and you had the names written out of them, C, E, taking chord 1, C, E, G, B, well, there are no sharps or flats in that. And if you know your scales, then you will know instinctively that this, a good chance that it belongs to the C major scale. So, in other words, if you're looking at pieces of music and you're trying to work out what these notes are, and you're working out the notes and you're thinking, oh, what is this? You know, sometimes knowing the scale will help. So now I did the modal series of videos explaining modes and scales. So in here we're now explaining chords. So if you find it slightly puzzling, the idea that scales, you know, this idea of chords, then you need to know your scales. There are ways to learn the keys. Okay, so this now is more regular guitarist territory. So here we go. We've got the strings E, B, G, D, A and E going from high to low as it's written. And then you've got all of the notes that are on the fretboard using the C major scale. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So starting on the high E string, I've done all this with the modes, but we'll go over it again. 0, 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. That's E to E in the C major scale. That's going E, F, G. You can't go any higher than G, so you have to go back to A. So E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. If you don't know these, it's worth going over these, you know, freeze frame, write down these notes, and really get to know them. B string, 0, 1, 3, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12. So that's B to B in the C major scale, going up the alphabet. So B will be followed by C, by D, by E, by F, by G. Can't go higher than G, so you have to go back to A and finish on B. Now on the G string, G, just going up the letters of the alphabet, can't go any higher than G, so you have to go back to A. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's 0, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12. D string, same thing again, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D. 0, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, 12. Now, if you're wondering how this will help you, if you had a chord that goes 10, 10, 10, 10, and you're trying to think, well, what scale could this belong to? Well, if you know your C major scale, that might be a chord that belongs to the C major scale. And it turns out it's D minor 7, which is chord 2 in terms of the 7 chords. So it's chord 7. You could do the same. If you had a chord that in a song that went 12, 12, 12, 12, D, G, B, E, well, that is an E minor 7 chord. So this is where knowing the fretboard can help you identify chords, scales, and then the names of those chords. A string, A to A, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. 0, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. E string, E to E, E, F, G, back to A, B, C, D, E. 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. So all of the scales that we've talked about come from these notes. So you're just looking at all the possibilities on the fretboard. That's where all the scales are in that, and you know, from major and minor to those flat and 5 chords to the 7 chords. They're all there for those keys. Okay, change camera angle. Okay, so we're now onto the bottom diagram. C major scale in thirds. This is where we overlaid 2 scales simultaneously, so C and E together. In other words, C, D, E. That's why it's a third. C, D, E. C is 1, D is 2, E is 3. 1 and 3 together. So in this instance, we've got 3 and the notes on the fretboard are 3 and 2, but of the scale, they're notes 1 and 3. So we're going to do notes 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 5 and 7, and so on. 5 and 3, 2, 0, 3, 2, 0, 0, 2, 1, 4, 3. So that was in terms of the notes of the scale 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 3 and 5, 4 and 6, 5 and 7, 6 and 1, 7 and 2. And then moving to 3 scales simultaneously. This will give us our major and minor chords. So imagine 1, 3, 5 of the first chord, C major. 3, 2, 0. 5, 3, 2 gives us D minor. Chord 3, E minor, 2 0 0. 3 1 3 2 1 is our F major. The 5 4 3 is a G major. 2 1 0 is A minor. 4 3 1 B minor with a flat 5. So they were exactly those notes that I showed before on those diagrams with the in music manuscripts. So it's 3 scales. So if you take the bottom notes of all of those chords here, and I just take the bottommost of each of the chords, 3 5 2 3 5 2 4, you'll get this. So you can hear the scale. If I take the middle note of every one of those chords, so we're going to go 2 3 0 2 4 1 3. Again, you can hear the scale in that. If we take the top note of all of those chords, 0 2 1 0 2 0 1 3 0 1. So they're 3 scales simultaneously, all in the same key. And then same thing again. So now we're doing 4 scales simultaneously. We get this. Chord 1, C major 7. Chord 2, D minor 7. Chord 3, E minor 7. Chord 4, F major 7. Chord 5, G7. Chord 6. That should say 7 5 5 3, not 4 3. Sorry about that. And 9 7 6 5. So B minor 7 flat 5. So we've got 4 scales there. Okay, so and now I'm going to do a lot more explaining about in the series about a bit more intricately about looking at songs that maybe move from one key to the other. So today I've only dealt with the C major scale because understanding that scales can be layered is you know, it's an important point, you know, because we're learning about scale construction and chord construction. Best to do it always in one key and get really confident about those basics before you sort of move on. So I always like to, wherever I'm playing a chord, I sometimes like to play those chords in different places. You know, and if you know your fretboard layout, so that's really important, knowing the fretboard layout. So you can almost visualise those scales all over the fretboard. So really get to know the fretboard. It won't do any harm at all. And then start to get to know the names of these chords and hopefully get to understand the function that they have within the chord. Chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, chord 4, chord 5, chord 6, chord 7, chord 1, chord 2, chord 3, chord 4, chord 5, chord 6, and then chord 7. So just playing chords anywhere and getting to know the function of them, because if you're writing a song and you're in the key of C major, so there I was playing C major, D minor, E minor, F major, all the chords of C major. We're still in the home key. That's really important to understand and hear that we're using that. Because knowing that will tell you that you could improvise using the C major scale. Not only that, if you're playing those chords, it will give you the notes, the most likely notes to use in a melody. So go. for inspiration, you might want to find notes that work in the scale, and I just sung something that was kind of, you know, just hummed something that was kind of scale like. But you can jump if you want and use those intervals. Jumping pitches, so you can, and if you're getting bored with a certain way of maybe the notes are all too close together, you can jump, and now you'll know where you're jumping to. Now, when I talked about modulation and songwriting, if you're doing C, D, E minor, F, and when you get to F, imagine if you go to B flat, to C7, to F, to G7. So we momentarily left the key of C major because I used some foreign chords. C, D minor, E minor, F major, B flat major, which is chord 4 of F major. It's just in the key of F major. So I've used F major as a pivotal chord, and I'm going to explain this another time. I'm going to show you different examples about how to pick a scale, pick a set of chords from that scale, find a mutual chord that belongs to both scales. In this instance, F major is chord 4 of C major, but it's chord 1 of F major. And that means that once you've hit that chord, you have the choice of then veering off into another key. And then that's why I managed to play B flat major. It doesn't belong to the key of C major, but it belongs to the key of F major. It shows that you're now in the key of F major. To establish the key of F major, I then played C7, which is the dominant chord of F major. So if you allow your ear to hear the way that the music stays within a particular key, and it seems to travel away, and then it moves back again. Finishing with the perfect cadence, chord 5, chord 1 in the key of C major, G7, C. So within a very short chord sequence, if you're songwriting, you can move away from wherever you are somewhere else if you feel that that's appropriate. Maybe the words transport you away. You know, if you're looking to emulate what's going on lyrically, excuse me, I'm still recovering from this sickness. So you know, you might want to make the music reflect the emotions of what's going on. So I'll explain a lot more, and maybe give you some more examples in classic songs to show you exactly what's going on from one key to another, one scale to another. Okay, so I normally I usually do some answer some questions. So let's go to that. So I hope that helps anyway, and you see the point of this whole idea of scales and chords and movement. I better check the feed in case anybody has said anything. Is Jack in my comfort zone at last? Does that mean, Jack, you're back to an area you're happy with? I'm guessing it is. Maybe you didn't like modes. I don't know. But it is, yeah, it's nice to have, you know, some areas that challenge you, and then you can always look at the videos and see if you can learn from that, and then you know, move on and try some other things. You know, that's what this is all about. Okay, so I've got some questions that appeared on the channel since the last live session, And yeah, I've had quite a few comments. So where are we? Okay, so Todd left a comment on the Locrian video, and he was talking about this song that someone mentioned about Howl's Moving Castle, and I watched this track, and it's like a piece of sort of piano and orchestra film music, so I now understand what that is now. And he says, thank you for sharing my comment and answering it about rest strokes. Well, you know, that's what I'm here for. If you want to, you know, ask a question, you know, live, I can try and address it, you know, and it's good for anybody when they're learning, is, you know, about any aspect of music, to have some sort of, you know, help, you know, when they need it. So, you know, that's why I'm trying to do this anyway, so you can at least ask a question. And Jack has just done that, and he said, yes, I need the time to take, but I need to take the time to study the modes, of course. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Well, you know, they are essential. I mean, you'll realise that some modes are more important than others. Some of them are. I mean, I think the Dorian mode and the Mixolydian mode are two of the most important. So those are the ones that I would say to start with. I think out of all of them, I would start with the Mixolydian. And then, I mean, for most guitarists, you should start to be able to see them in the pentatonic scales. So if you're playing what you're thinking of as minor pentatonics, you can start to see the Dorian and the Mixolydian within those scales. Hopefully it gives you a feeling of that rock music, but, you know, listen to the examples of songs that are in the Mixolydian mode that I gave. But yeah, hopefully it's useful anyway. You can always use it as an area for further investigation. And Todd also wrote in another comment, it's okay to play Spanish Romance, and the Tárrega pieces are my main effort to perfect rest strokes lately, and some Andrew York. Well, yes. Can't think of anything better than AMI. So that rest technique, you know, I think I said last week I don't use it very much, and I don't really. I find them a bit cumbersome, but yeah. I mean, some guitarists will want to play them, the rest strokes. And Todd said everything guitar. If you listen to the same theme, he's talking about that piece of music again, the Howl's Moving Castle. If you listen to the same theme, I did. It was a complex piano piece. Oh yes, because I wasn't sure. That's right. And he also said, I'll keep it in mind. I've not done much arranging. I've tried to do Ave Maria for 2 guitars and only got like 12 bars done. And a Grand Russian Fantasy as a finger fretboard tapping distorted electric solo. And he said he did Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for solo classical guitar. So he talked about arrangements. Well, if you know how scales and chords work, let's switch the camera back. If you know how scales and chords work and you're playing so you're playing a melody, and if you know what the melody is, where it occurs on the fretboard, and you pick a key, the art of arranging is knowing the melody line, knowing the bass note that goes with it from the chord. So we're in A minor. To D minor. So playing a D in the bass, but I'm not playing any other notes at the moment. But imagine if I was to say, right, well, I'm playing this up here. The whole point of arranging is to find the chord in this area, wherever you are. So I'm going to try and play. It's quite cumbersome, that. So then what you do is you say, right, well, okay, well that might be a bit too fiddly. Let's one of these notes we can get rid of. So maybe we get rid of the A because we've already got it in the bass, so we don't play that note. Maybe we get rid of the E because we've already got an E up there. You know, that's what arranging is all about. It's about picking the appropriate notes from the chord to be able to play the melody at the same time. And that's why you really ought to work on your chords all over the fretboard. And anybody that knows me knows that I spent years trying to play, not play down here. I tried to play all up there, and I just try to learn every chord in every position. And this is where it helps you for arranging. It's all about your confidence at the fretboard and knowing your options. Sounds easy. It's not really, but it's definitely something worth investigating. It will certainly make you a better musician. So if you're interested in arranging, Todd, you know, just keep working on. I keep working on simple chords and simple melodies. You know, do "You Are My Sunshine," or you know, just keep picking really simple songs and put bass notes to it and put chords to it. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, okay. So Cosmic Debris commented, "Thanks for the mention. This is in the Local Mode video. True story about the Lego." Yes, because Cosmic Debris said that he used to play Lego, and he used to hear his dad playing. I think it was a Tarraga study, Tarraga #1 that I recorded the other week, and he said he used to hear that while he was playing with Lego. And I've just had a question come in from Barty, who said, "Hello, how did you work out Adrian and Legg's past the Valium?" Well, it's interesting you know that. Thanks for asking. How did I work it out? Well, I used to play it years ago. I had the vinyl album when Adrian and Legg used to tour around London, and this was in, I don't know what year, probably 1984, 1985. I used to go and see him because he always used to play, you know, within 10, 15 miles of my house. And the first time I saw him, my first girlfriend at the time, her mother was a big Adrian Legg fan, and I think it was for my birthday or Christmas or something, they bought me the Technopicker album. So I knew the original vinyl version of that past the Valium. So I kind of played it by ear, a lot of that stuff at the time. It was a lot harder to work things out in those days anyway. And then, but it's so easy to transcribe music now because you can just, I just slow things down. What I do is, I don't play it slowly because I've got a good ear discipline. So what I do is I put it on a computer and just hit the space bar to pause it. And I use it because what I do is I listen to a phrase and I try and write as much of that phrase out as I possibly can by what I've heard. And then I maybe test it out on the guitar. Now this might seem a really ridiculous way of doing it, but I'm listening to it most of the time at absolute full speed. And I hear notes sometimes you hear notes as a cluster. But if you listen carefully, you make a mental picture of a phrase. You can hear it. I mean, imagine imagine you are thinking now of the theme "Happy Birthday." Most people can think of it. It doesn't matter what the key is, as long as you can recall a melody. But imagine if you're listening to something, you play that phrase, and then you've got to recall it. So your mind is working like a tape recorder. You know, like these people that go around all the time filming and recording everything with their phones. Well, you can make your mind do that. You just got to train it. So yeah, you just write it down. I tabbed it out. Originally, what I used to do in the 80s, I used to write it out in manuscript with the dots. So I actually still got those workings from loads of Adrian Legg music. So yeah, I've got loads more that I've done of his. But that's how I did it anyway. I just listened to it and wrote out what I heard, and then I tested it against what he was playing. So I hope that helps anyway. And yeah, thanks for the question, because I think a lot of people will be interested in those kind of things. Now, Todd asks a question in the Keplinger Terrier piece and the 22 vignettes. And he said, instead of traditional minor to major parts, did we go from major to minor in this one? Because, like, you know, you think Greensleeves, traditional English folk song, starts off in the minor key, finishes up in the major key, which we call a tierce de Picardy. So some composers like to mess about with this relationship between major and minor. So they write different sections of music. And this particular piece, and if you want to check it out, I did record this piece by Michael Keplinger, the Terrier, which is from the 22 vignettes. I think it's number 13. Yeah, it does that. It shifts from major, and then it goes into a minor section, goes back to major again. And he said, nice piece and good job with the bass parts. So I think he means the tone on the bass. But my thumbnail's getting to a length that I quite like. You know, I think I'm going to have to file it back because it's going to be in danger of breaking it. So that's how it goes. Yeah, loads of comments actually this time. So Cosmic Debris said, nice playing, Dale. That's on that Fernando Saw Opus 44 number 13, Allegretto in E minor. I think that's another one that messes about with major and minor. So anyway, thank you for the comments. You know, to be encouraged recording pieces of music and for people to say, oh, that sounds great and whatever, as long as it did sound great. I don't like it when I didn't play great. I try not to put anything up that sounds like that anyway. I just think if I record something that's awful, I usually will redo it. Or if I really can't play it on that day, I just say, right, well, it's not my day for this piece, and I might record something else. I prefer to now record when I feel like doing that. Oh, you're welcome, Bartes. Yeah, you said thank you, very interesting. Yes, well, yeah, well, you're welcome. That's what I'm here for. And then Sam commented, beautifully played. That's on that same Fernando Sol piece. First time I've listened to this piece, I would definitely try to learn. Well, if it inspires people to learn the music that I'm recording on the videos, then, you know, that's great. Todd, again, commented, I like the part at 48... This is in this Fernando Sol piece. Said, I like the part at 48 seconds, makes the whole song worth it. Because we had a ridiculous comment in last week on one of the other videos, and it just said 31 seconds, and it was just me doing a silly expression showing the ending of the piece. But in this instance, Todd's pointed out the part at 48 seconds makes the whole song worth it. I think that was a key change as well. And Josh Vanjani has commented, well played, Dow, a nice clear tone to this performance. That's on that Fernando Saw. So I'm recording the whole of the Saw, Opus 44. They're really good student pieces. You know, it doesn't matter what style of music you play in. You know, these are good tests if you're just a guitarist and you want a bit of a challenge. Ryan has written about, I did this Behringer pedal, these effects pedals, and they've got this really silly battery compartment, and if you didn't know it was there, you would have no idea how to get at the battery, unlike a Boss pedal where you just unscrew it. So I did a video explaining about what to do. I just thought, if someone's at a gig and they've got a pedal that's, you know, crapped out on them, how, you know, they're going to be thinking, what do I do? So I thought, well, maybe that will help someone. So he said, Ryan said, I knew there had to be a way to put a battery in this thing, thanks. Oh, you're welcome. Instrumental Music commented, this is Phil. He's a good guitarist, by the way. Check Phil's channel out. And this is on, what video was this? The Mauro Giuliani, Opus 139, recording all the Opus 139 pieces at the moment. So this is Opus 139 number 4. And Phil said, lovely performance, Dale. Stunning sound on that guitar. Best wishes from Shropshire. Well, that guitar was the Stephen Hill guitar. Yeah, it does sound good. it will sound rubbish if you don't play it properly, but you know that, Phil, as well as me. And yeah. So Cosmic Debris commented on that Giuliani as well. So great stuff, Dale. Thank you very much. I hope I did play it all right. Josh has said on the... Is it the Giuliani again? Yes. Well played, Dale. I'm happy to hear more of this opus. The bass line reminded me of some other earlier Renaissance pieces more than the Romantic era repertoire. Well, yeah, it is kind of... I think it's Giuliani sort of referencing the past a little bit with that one. I definitely agree that there's something of the past in that. If not sort of Vivaldi or some sort of Baroque thing. And Todd commented on the Giuliani. It's a bright and rhythmic interpretation. I enjoyed So Like in Europe. So Like in Europe, are there people who are a direct line down from Giuliani as students of his works? So I think what he's saying is, can you trace the guitarist who his students taught? I think that's what you mean. You'll have to tell me if that's what you mean sometime, Todd. Yeah, I'm not too familiar with some of these students. If you think sometimes at the top of a composition you get a name dedicated to a student, that's sometimes what alerts us. But the true answer is that I don't know. I don't know about the lineage and the rest of it. You probably could look some of it up. I don't know. Someone else has commented in some sort of foreign language. No idea what that is. Mishajiru commented. Sorry, I hope I've pronounced your name. Or Mishajiru has commented. Nice. Is this the right tempo, or should it be a little faster? He's talking about the Saw Opus 44, the latest one that I recorded. Well, in that period, they didn't have metronome markings. They used to just say allegro or adagio or lento. It was quite approximate. They left the performer to choose the mood, the speed and the mood. So it's just a quirk of classical music, certainly of that period. If you think the advent of the metronome and the rest of it, this would have been before that. So, or some composers just didn't use it or didn't have access to one. And I've been doing some videos in the past about the Isotope RX7 software. And if you don't know Isotope, it's a very, very clever software that you can remove all sorts of, things in the music. So you can use it for noise reduction, gets rid of hiss and all that sort of stuff. It's a brilliant program. So I did a review on this RX7 software, and the bookkeeper commented, I was so impressed to find that an issue I have with drumming software, Superior Drum. We all know about drummers and their noisy drum kits. Sounds like they're frying chips in the background or French fries in the background if you're not from around here. And he says, where the snares can ring with natural resonance, often something I don't want, or to reduce the ringing. And he said this can be treated using the suggest feature in the RX7 hum. So I did one of the functions I did on the video was how to reduce the hum on a video if you ever have that problem. So those are the comments for this week. So thanks everybody for commenting on the videos. It always takes a while. Barty has said, thank you, very interesting. Have you ever played a harp guitar? Well, I've got a Baroque lute which has got the floating strings across the top, which is harp-like. But no, I haven't played a harp guitar. But I do play the Baroque lute with some difficulty because of all these extra strings, and they're just obviously what Barty means is that these strings you've got the regular 6 strings. You may have other strings that move off the fretboard that float above the fretboard, and you might need another headstock. But no, I've not played one. It's hard enough playing that thing. You just asked me about past the Valium, But no, I know what you mean. It gives you extra resonant notes, and if you're doing stuff like that, then yeah, I'm sure it's valid, but it's not something I've really seen much of. I mean, you never know. One day I might see one and might get one. I don't know. It depends whether I think it's playable or not, or tunable or not. Anytime I ever play a concert with the Baroque lute, you have to spend about 2 or 3 hours tuning the thing. You know, if you go to a concert, you've been in the car with it or something. You know, it's all unsettled and all the strings. You know, so you know, imagine 6 strings going out of tune. You know, then you've got to deal with a Baroque lute of, you know, whatever it is, 24 strings. So you've got to tune them all up, especially those long ones. So yeah, but I'll play anything that's guitar-like. You know, some people have put things in my hands before and just said, right, can you make something of that? And I've done it. Can't promise it sounds great, but you know, it's the fun of music, isn't it? And it's to try other things, and it's the great thing about playing the guitar. There's so many different varieties of guitar, and you've got lutes, and you've got mandolins that guitarists can play if they want to, or even banjos. You have to put your earplugs in for the banjo though. So all right, well, thank you very much everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you look at the other teaching videos and just try and get as much out of it, because you know what, Barty, you know, if you can improve your ear, you can work out anything. You know, and this is how you can become strong with your ear as well as being strong with your music theory. You can use the two in tandem, and you can do some incredible things. So who knows, you might be able to work out some Adrian Legg pieces yourself. I mean, I don't know what standard you are, so you'll have to tell me sometime. So anyway, thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, whenever that will be. I don't know.